Can you hear me?
I could hear you for a second, Stacy.
Ian, are you on?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. We're going to get started in just a second. We've got the presentation up on our end, or did you want to share it on yours?
You can share it. I guess we'll just say next slide or whatever to advance.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Give us about 1 more minute and then I'll have Reese start talking to introduce the presentation.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I know we'll have a couple other people join us in a few minutes. We have Ian Hamilton and his team, along with folks from RDOT, FHWA, here today. Hopefully everything will work according to plan. So thank you, Ian, and Dick and everyone who's there on the call with us today. Appreciate it.
Certainly. I guess that's our cue to start.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds great. So as Reese may have mentioned, I'm Ian Hamilton. I'm a transportation planner with VHB, and I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, but I'm coming to you today from a hotel room in Boston, Massachusetts. So hopefully everything is working out okay. And I'm joined today with Dick Albin from the Federal Highway Administration, as well as Joe Heflin, also from FHWA, but from the Arkansas Division. And so I guess, Dick, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Dick Albin. I'm with the Federal Highway Administration Resource Center and Safety and Design team. And I'm one of the leads for an initiative that we call Forward. And I'm going to be explaining what Forward is in a few minutes here. But we look forward to working with you.
Great. And then Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yes, I'm Joe Heflin. I'm the Safety and Operations Engineer with Federal Highways here in Little Rock. Your group probably has worked with Valeria McDaniel and even Amy Heflin out of our division office. They're on the planning side. So I'm the Safety and Operations side of our division office here in Little Rock. Thank you.
Great. And so we'll just be giving a quick overview of a safety action plan that we're developing in coordination with Reese and Stacy and her team for the Frontier MPO and then the Wapiti area as well. And so next slide, please. And so just to give a quick overview of the contacts, Reese and Sasha, I believe Sasha's with Wapiti and Reese is on the Frontier side. Stacy isn't listed, but she's obviously been instrumental as well. And then Dick and I will be doing the presentation. And so next slide, please. And so I will hand it over to Dick here momentarily to give that brief introduction about the FHWA perspective and what Forward is and what it intends to accomplish. Then we'll cover some of the goals and objectives of the plan, the progress to date, and then future activities that we'll be completing through the end of this year. And so, yeah, I'll next slide and turn it over to Dick.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so when we look at fatalities and safety on our roads, a lot of times we use fatalities as our measure. And the pie chart there shows the breakdown of fatalities, and that's a 3-year average of fatalities. And we see that the breakdown between urban and rural is a little bit skewed toward urban, but a big chunk of them are rural. And it's overrepresented because only about 19% of people actually live in the rural environment, but 45 or 44% of the fatalities are happening there. But the biggest part of the rural fatalities are roadway departures, where somebody leaves their lane. They either runs off the road onto a slope or hits a fixed object or crosses a center line and encounters a vehicle coming in the opposite direction. So So that 29%, the rural roadway departures, is something that we decided that we wanted to focus on, trying to reduce the number of people that are killed there. And if you look at that number, that 10,774 people that are on average that die on a rural road as a result of a roadway departure, that means that 30 people will die today as a result of a roadway departure on a rural roadway. And we want to, try to think about those are people we know, family, friends, and we want to try to save those people behind the numbers. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. So with our forward initiative, we kind of identified that there's 4 main pillars as part of forward. First, we need to address all public roads. In some states, more than half of all of the fatal crashes and serious injuries happen on roads that aren't maintained by the state. They're maintained by counties or cities or tribes. So if we're not addressing all public roads, we're missing a big part of the problem. And we have, one of another countermeasure pillar is our proven countermeasures. We have things that we know work, things to help keep you on the road, like curve signing and friction treatments and rumble strips. But we also know that sometimes people are still going to leave the road, even if we have all those. So then we try to provide an area where they can recover, with shoulders and clear zones and traversable slopes. And we know that we can't always do all of those either. So then our last option is to try to reduce the chance, try to minimize the severity of a crash that does occur. And that's where we start thinking about things like barriers and breakaway sign supports and things like that. So we have proven countermeasures. The goal is how can we get those out so they can do their job? With roadway departures, they tend to be spread out over a large distance. A lot of miles of roadway. They're not necessarily concentrated like at intersections or things like that. So the systemic approach is what we feel is the best way of getting that. Not necessarily looking at where crashes have happened in the past, but looking at what are the risk factors associated with those crashes and then going after locations with those risk factors, even if they haven't had a crash in the last couple of years. Now, all of those things, bringing all those together in a safety action plan is another pillar that we think is a good option. And those safety action plans could be a statewide plan. They could be a regional plan, like based around an MPO, like we're talking about today with you, or they could be a local road safety plan, where an individual county or city develops their own plan. So, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today is developing that safety action plan for the Frontier MPO, and that action plan isn't necessarily focused solely on roadway departures, but I expect that roadway departures will be a big part of that. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ian.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Nick. So I'll go to the next slide here. And so just quickly covering some of the background and some of the goals and objectives. It's actually interesting. So I guess this whole thing started several months ago when we were working with Federal Lands Highway on a separate research project, really focused on systemic safety. And as a part of that project, we were searching for volunteers to test some of our data analysis methods and some of our approaches to areas, especially if there's not a ton of data to work with. And through an outreach through the Rural Safety Center, Reese graciously offered to be a guinea pig. And so as a part of that process and just the course of events, her and her team successfully applied for a FLAMP grant, Federal Lands Access Program grant. And she also mentioned she was working on a safety action plan, but hadn't quite put all the pieces together yet. And so she reached out to us and we were able to provide that assistance through Dick and FHWA and the Forward program. And so the plan is really focused on all public roads in the Frontier MPO and the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District. So that includes both state and locally maintained roads. We're following FHWA guidance on how to develop that local road safety plan or safety action plan. And again, this is built on the framework that Reese had already started back in the middle of last year. And again, thinking big picture about what this whole plan is trying to accomplish. We want to take a data-driven process to identify safety needs, but the big picture purpose is to secure funding. And so things like the Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP, FLAP, if another FLAP grant is of interest to the MPO in the region. And then I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Safe Streets for All notice of funding opportunity that recently came out. I know Reese is tracking it pretty closely, and we're hoping that this can, if not be eligible for implementation, certainly get the region very, very close to implementation ready with some of the results. And so next slide, please. And so just to give you a quick overview of our process, we did some data collection, mostly pulling crash, roadway, and traffic data, intersection locations from RDOT, but we also pulled from other national sources as well. So things like the, may be atypical, like the National Land Cover database, just to get a sense of urbanizing trends in the MPO and the region. And we also partnered with the University of Wisconsin. Their TOPS lab is a really great, innovative group of folks, and they have a tool called Curve Finder. And using that tool, we're able to take the centerline data provided by Arkansas DOT and derive horizontal curve information. And then we can supplement that with vertical information, elevation data, which we gathered through the USGS and the national map. And so between those two factors, we're able to pull horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, and help supplement some of those traditional data sets. Again, going back to that federal lands project that I referred to earlier. And so taking all that data, we then did a plan review. So that primarily focuses on the 2022 update of the Arkansas Strategic Highway Safety Plan, which is a federally mandated plan that requires a data-driven process to identify pressing safety issues in the state. And the better we align with the SHSP, the more likely the region is able to secure that HSIP funding and secure safety funds on the region's roads. And so that's been a plan we've looked at, as well as the MTP as well, to look what is currently ongoing for the Frontier MPO. And so next slide, please. And so, like I mentioned, we did data analysis. That's pretty much a traditional systemic analysis plus some additional characteristics, and taking the emphasis areas from the Arkansas SHSP, we identified these 6 focus crash types as really important for this Frontier MPO SAP. And so, like Dick mentioned, the roadway departure is a big one. So urban roadway departure characteristics, rural roadway departure characteristics. In the Frontier MPO area specifically, intersection-related crashes are important, and bicycle and pedestrian related crashes are also a high priority based on our data analysis. And then because we're also including some of the Wapatiti area, speed-related crashes and then motorcycle crashes are also key emphasis areas for the region. And so if I could present a bit of homework for the group here, Reese probably has other plans as well. We recently published and presented via Reese and her team a series of data collection and crowdsource apps. And I believe we also have some static maps that Reese and her team printed out. And what the goal of those are is to supplement with qualitative data where we might be lacking quantitative data. And so things like desire paths on the sides of roads, areas where you've noticed speeding issues or there's qualitative speeding issues. And what this is intended to do, like Dick mentioned with the systemic approach, that really does well with identifying several areas where low-cost countermeasures, proven safety countermeasures can reduce risk, broadly across the network. And what we're trying to do with this outreach is look for maybe those specific areas that we can't see in the data. We know it's an issue because of the broad crash analysis, but we aren't necessarily able to parse, those micro level, facility level characteristics. And so you can see here on this map, we worked with the mayor of Alma recently to put some pins on the map for pedestrian issues or pedestrian exposure places where he saw a need. And if the more we can get the message out, the more information we can gather from the various constituents on these locations, the better. Obviously, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say. So the more information we can gather, the better. So next slide, please. And so just to give you a quick overview of the future activities, we will be meeting with RDOT, a collective meeting between Reese and her team and RDOT and FHWA to identify priority sites and identify those key countermeasures. Again, aligning the SHSP with the Frontier MPO's safety action plan. And we're anticipating, at this point, I think it's going to be either early or mid-July to get the most people scheduled for that meeting as possible. And then once we have that conversation, finalize the data analysis, we'll then develop that action plan with the emphasis on practical implementation. And again, the reason you do this is to make sure that you are ready to secure funding and are readily able to deploy that funding in a data-driven manner. And so with that, I think I'll just turn to the next slide. And Reese, if there's anything that you want to mention that I may have missed, also happy to answer questions, whatever works best.
Thank you, Ian. We really appreciate RDOT's assistance and of course Federal Highway Administration for funding this on our behalf. And I really have to just point out, Ian, he noticed it on my board and all just happened so seamlessly, and really appreciate your help. And of course, Ian has the maps online through the links. And of course, we're still taking any comments on those, so be sure to check those out. And if you have any questions for Ian or the team, please feel free to speak up now.
What's the end date for the comments?
Ian, what's the end date for our comments? I know it was relatively soon.
Yeah, I would say that it's a tentative deadline of the end of this month, end of June. But if more comments come in, there's no reason to stop the presses on that. So I would say the plan itself, we're looking to wrap up either really late summer or early fall. So the sooner the better, but there's still a bit more time beyond this month. And again, if anybody comes up with a question later on, I'm happy, and I'm, Dick also and Joe, I'm sure we're happy to tackle any questions that may come up or any other notes. So we welcome all input.
Thank you. And we have your contact information. So and we can make this PowerPoint presentation available to you all. We'll send that out to everyone so that you also have it. And feel free to send questions to us. We'll be sure to get them to the team. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining and presenting on this really important topic. As we all know, there's most of the facilities are in rural areas, and there's a high preponderance of accidents, and we're just seeking countermeasures to understand how we can better keep everyone safe. So again, thank you so much, Ian, Dick, Joe, and everyone at RDOT.
Thank you, and I really look forward to getting this done, and I helping you compete for some of the funding that's available. There's a lot of funding available right now, so.
Yeah, we're hoping that we can meet that self-certification eligibility for Safe Streets for All, and maybe look at partnering with some different folks, see how we can make that happen.
Great.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing. Thank you for committing to this effort. Hopefully, this safety action plan will be a solid first step for the MPO and the planning district to move forward. And as Dick mentioned, roadway departures in rural areas are definitely a focus in Arkansas and have been since I've been here. So hopefully this mirrors really well with what's going on in Western Arkansas. And we definitely encourage your input. As Ian was talking, that input makes this just that much better. The results are much more usable and applicable than if we can get that input. And Reese knows to let me or Valera or Amy in our division office know if you need any assistance, either, or have questions either with this effort or with these other federal aid programs that are coming out left and right now. So we're trying to figure all that out as you guys are. So just let us know if you have any issues or questions that we can try to forward or get answered. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Joe. Yeah, I've got the highway competitive grant program standout in front of the policy board members. This was actually compiled by Casey Covington at Metro Plan, but it's a great, wonderful, super short summary of when the no-cos are going to be out, what the basic requirements are, who's eligible. Just to make sure that you all have this in front of you in different jurisdictions, and we'll send this out via email too, so that you can take a look at it and get an idea of maybe the different things that, we can help you apply for, or that you're, as an entity or a region, are eligible for. And again, I really kudos to FHWA, to our DOT for assisting us with this. We were so proud to learn that we're the first in the state to undertake such a plan. So we, as you know, we love being first. We love awards. So, and we are so thrilled to have been selected by FHWA for their Environmental Excellence Award. So I will go out to Austin in early July to pick that up, and it's really a thrill that a small MPO like Western Arkansas can be recognized by the Federal Highway Administration for our efforts. And really, really, again, thank you so much.
I would get started. Doug Kinslow, Greenwood. Ian, can you tell us what's going on behind you there? I don't want you to step back.
I'm afraid to look down, frankly. Yeah. I was looking for something Arkansas related, but I don't have a picture, so I need to come out and get one.
And I believe this may also be recorded. I'm not entirely sure, but that may be another way for you to access this presentation too. So thank you so much, gentlemen.
Great, thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move into our policy board meeting.